So Gemma McCall, CEO and founder of Culture Shift, welcome to the Blackfinch Ventures Fearless Founders mini-series.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really, really good to be here.
It's a pleasure. So we invested in the company, I think, a little over a year ago, but why don't we start by just talking about where it all began? What's the origin story for Culture Shift?
So I guess the sort of origin really kind of starts in mine and my co-founders' kind of past experience at work. My personal experience is that I'd experienced maternity discrimination across having both my children, and that kind of experience like ignited something in me, something where I wanted to change the world for the better, particularly for my daughter, because I didn't want her to go through the same things that I had faced during my career. And then we collaborated with the University of Manchester on our first system. And the reason why that collaboration started was because the NUS had done some research that found during their time at university, 60% of female students would experience some kind of sexual harassment, but less than 2% would actually report it. And a number of them would leave the university because they felt that it was too traumatic to be there anymore. That unfairness, it was like, I had the opportunity to help change that. So I guess that kind of activist found somewhere to have an impact, and that's kind of where it all began, really.
Such a strong mission-driven company, and that passion, and that certainly came through when we saw it. But so you had this idea, and you were kind of on your horse with the sword held high, and you were going in this direction. What happened next?
So soon after we launched the first system with the University of Manchester, we had a number of other higher education institutions wanting us to do the same thing for them. So not only was there the opportunity to have a positive impact on a culture, but there was also a business opportunity as well. So, Culture Shift was born, and we've kind of grown into that education vertical. We work with most of the universities across the UK now, and it's kind of gone on from there.
And an incredible domination of that sector in a way. And I remember when we saw you, we were just amazed at how you had zero churn at the time, but we weren't the first investor, I don't think, were we? So how did you get to the point where you took the first investment to help you grow? So
initially we bootstrapped the business, and we were selling deals in a kind of way where we would charge a setup fee and then a low maintenance fee, as we kind of had it then. And bootstrapping is hard. It's hard to accelerate growth and make all of the changes and do all the product development that you want to do. And as a founder, I'm very impatient. And
it holds you back, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so we decided to take our first round of seed investment, which closed March 2020. And that was to, grow the team initially, and really try and, look at selling into growing the education vertical, but then looking at other verticals as well.
And what kind of hires were you making at the time? So as you say, it sort of holds you back not having this capital, and it means you can grow faster. But what were the first things you did with that first investment?
The first investment, we created a team of people to look at sort of different areas of the business, because it had been me, another salesperson, and a relationship manager doing the onboarding and really focusing on onboarding. And what we wanted to do is start to focus on the client experience once they were onboarded, grow the sales team, but also grow the product team, and make decisions from a research point of view, so that we could research what people were, why they weren't reporting, understand that, and then remove as many barriers to reporting so that more people would access support for what they'd experienced.
And what was incredible is just how well you were able to go into that market? And what was it really about the university sector, the higher education sector, that you think made it such a good fit?
I think that there wasn't a lot of education that we had to do about the prevalence of the issues that we are there to tackle. So we exist to tackle bullying, harassment and discrimination of any kind. And at university, you're not having to convince them that there is a problem in the first place. They acknowledge that there is an issue and they are like trying to tackle that issue. So that was one of the things that really stood in our favour. But the collaboration with our early partners was something that really stood us in good stead, because very early doors we had some of the biggest and most respected universities in the country working with Culture Shift, and Universities UK had done a case study about our software and about how we can help to remove barriers to reporting. So the fact that we had the endorsement almost of those really well respected institutions was something that meant that there wasn't a lot of explaining that we had to do about who Culture Shift were, because generally people knew who we were.
Kind of gave you that credibility, I suppose, in the space, and people understood it really well. And then about a year ago, summer 2021, we came along and invested throughout EIS and our VCT. And what has that allowed you to do since? Because you've grown very nicely.
Yeah, we have. We've got a much bigger team. So if the first round of investment kind of established the leaders of those teams, it was now to grow the teams themselves. So grow the sales team, the marketing team and the product team, so that we could do more, basically.
Makes perfect sense. And so if you had to describe it in a kind of nutshell today for the people watching, what does Culture Shift do?
So the core of what we do is our piece of reporting software that allows anyone who has experienced or witnessed any kind of bullying, harassment, discrimination or wellbeing concern to be able to report it and connect them to support for what they've experienced. It allows the licensing organisation to understand and identify any problem trends so that they can take a proactive approach to helping and tackling those trends so that they can create a positive culture within their organisation.
So it really is tech for good, isn't it? And tech for good still has its challenges. What would you say there are many in these journeys, but what would you say your biggest challenge has been so far?
One of the biggest challenges is helping or finding organisations who are prepared to acknowledge that these problems exist. And acknowledging and admitting that there is a problem isn't admitting that your organisation is bad, because these are global societal issues that we're tackling here. But we find in organisations that work with us who don't say, oh no, the problem's over here, it's not in here. Those aren't the organisations that we want to work with. We want to work with the organisations who really understand that there are some hidden issues and they want to truly try and create a speak up culture so that the people who work within those organisations feel able to say when they feel uncomfortable about something, and that the organisation will try and tackle that and protect their culture and really add to that sense of belonging that we all feel and crave. We all want to go to work every day and be positive and happy and do our work to the best of our abilities. But we will remove ourselves from the organisation if we don't feel like we belong. And we're here to do that and look for organisations who really want to achieve that.
And I can imagine delivering that message, it must be quite difficult to, as you say, it's sort of inferring that the company has a problem, whereas in actual fact it's more about making it transparent and allowing them to grow, isn't it? And have you found the university sector to be different to, I know you've started to sort of crack other sectors now, in terms of how you have to get that message across?
Yeah, I think because the university sector definitely was able to acknowledge that these issues exist, there was definitely less education, I guess, that we as an organisation had to do about the existence of the problems themselves. I think what we've found with other organisations, particularly like in the corporate sector, that there is a tendency to go, oh yeah, well that happened over there, but that's not something that we have a problem here, or that there is definitely focus on culture and it being a positive culture, but that focus goes on the nice things. So, you know, celebrating Pride, for example, is something that is very, very important. But it is a celebration rather than going, okay, maybe the people who are LGBTQ plus in our organisation are maybe having issues. How do they tell us if they are having an issue? And that's what we're there to do. So I guess sometimes the tendency could be on like what we could do from a positive perspective, rather than acknowledging that sometimes there's negativity and tackling those thorny issues.
And I suppose what's nice is that when you crack that messaging, not only do you create more impacts through the product being in more companies, but also commercially the business grows. Yeah. And talking about the growth of the business, so if you look back from today to when you first started and you first had those experiences yourself, how has the business growth looked?
So we've just gone past the really important milestone of hitting £1 million ARR, which is, you know, fantastic. Our reporting system gives the ability to nearly 1.8 million people to be able to say something and connect them with support if they've experienced something, which is, you know, obviously something that I'm absolutely hugely proud of. We're looking to drive reporting rates up across that 1.8 million people so that more people are accessing support, because we know that the prevalence is high.
It's an incredible number. It's really, you must be very proud.
Yeah, I definitely am.
And how about the next, so if you cast your mind sort of forward, how about the next kind of 6, 7, 8 months? Without giving us too many details, what's exciting that's on the horizon?
So it's our growth in the other vertical sectors that I was mentioning. You know, there's a lot of exciting potential for the companies that we're going to partner with, and we call them partners rather than clients, because we see it as working in partnership together. We don't just kind of put the software in and kind of go, right, good luck with that can of worms. We want to work collaboratively with them to understand what the trends are and help them take a proactive approach to tackling those things. So I'm really excited to be working with some very, you know, visionary EDI directors really, who have recognised that there are issues and really want to, you know, get under the skin and tackle those things and create a more positive working environment for the people who are in their organisations.
And hopefully that will snowball through the verticals as people realise what a difference it makes. But if you cast your mind even further though, 5, 6, 7 years time, what do you think Culture Shift will look like then?
It's a really interesting question, but what I would love is that we have been able to help organisations create a truly speak up culture, because I think a lot of organisations say that they do that, whereas it's not necessarily lived. It's like a hope rather than something they can demonstrate happens. In as many sectors across the world, because of course these you know, issues are not you know, UK only. You know, they are issues that are faced by people across the world. And so if we can have a positive impact by creating safer working environments for those people, so that ultimately people go to work and they thrive and flourish, that's just good news for everyone.
Well, Gemma, it's been great talking to you, and we're really looking forward to seeing you make that vision a reality. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.